In this video, we will discuss the gains and losses of an exporting country. So here we open up our economy. Our economy is going to export and import. So what will happen to the economy when it exports and imports? This we are going to explain. So we are going to explain here a case of an open economy. And in this video, we will explain a situation where economy exports. You know that an economy exports when the world price is higher than domestic price, the economy will export. So we are going to explain this condition where world price is greater than domestic price and the economy starts exporting. The following figure shows the market when the domestic equilibrium price before trade is below the world price. In other words, world price is higher than the domestic equilibrium price. Okay, once trade is allowed, the domestic price rises to equal the world price. So once trade is allowed, you know that we will be selling commodities outside, and this will actually result in raising our domestic price, and ultimately the domestic price will become equal to the world price. Okay, trade starts because of the difference between world price and domestic price. Here we say that the country will start exporting mainly because of the reason that world price is higher than domestic price. After the domestic price has risen to equal the world price, the domestic quantity supplied exceeds the domestic quantity demanded. Then the country becomes an exporter of the commodity. Then, now there is another participant in the market, the rest of the world. The horizontal line at the world price represents the rest of the world's demand for the commodity. So we will see these things in the next slide. This demand curve is perfectly elastic because the country's name is Iceland. As a small country can sell as many textiles as it wants at the world price. So simply you have to understand that here the country is going to export. And why is the country exporting? The reason is that world price means the price prevailing in the world or price prevailing in the rest of the world, that is higher than the domestic price. So therefore the country is going to export, or therefore the country is going to sell commodities outside, because from outside it will get more price. Now, this is the diagram which explains the case of an export. Let me first explain the variables in this figure. So here, along the horizontal axis, you have the quantity, and along the vertical axis, we have the price. Here we measure two prices. One is world price, and other is the domestic equilibrium price. Simply speaking, domestic price. Okay. So how do you achieve this domestic price? This domestic price is achieved by the equilibrium between demand and supply. Where is this equilibrium? To see the equilibrium, you have to first look at the demand curve. This is a demand curve, and this is the domestic demand, and this is a supply curve. These two curves cut each other at point D. So therefore, or this is not point the D, this is the point. Okay. And this point shows the equilibrium in the market. And to understand the equilibrium price or the domestic price or the price before trade, you have to extend a line from this equilibrium point to the axis where price is shown. So this is the axis where price is shown. So you know that here the price before trade is this. So this is a price before trade. This is a price before trade, or this is domestic price. Now Now we see a situation where world price is greater than domestic price. World price is greater than domestic price. So how do you show this in this figure? Just we draw a world price above this line. This is domestic price line. So if you draw a price above this line, that is here, this is a world price. So this is price after trade, or this is what's called the world price. Now this country is a small country, therefore this country has no capacity to influence the world price. The world price is fixed here. As far as this country is concerned, the world price is fixed or given. That's why we draw this at a we draw this line as a horizontal line, perfectly elastic. This is perfectly elastic demand curve because, or perfectly elastic line, because of the reason that the country is so small that it cannot influence the market. See what happens here. What happens to the consumers surplus and producers surplus? So here we have to compare the consumers and producers surplus before trade and after trade. So our intention, what's our intention? Our intention is to understand this. What the gain and losses of an exporting country. The gain and losses of an exporting country. So to understand the gain and losses of an exporting country, we have to compare the before trade situations with the after trade situations. We have to understand the change. Okay, so let us see the before trade situation. Before trade, you know that we have the domestic price. So what is the consumer surplus before trade? Consumer surplus before trade can be measured by taking the area below the demand curve. This is the demand curve. So by taking area below the demand curve and above this equilibrium price. That means this is the area of consumer surplus before trade. See, this area can be split into two, A, B. So the whole area, or A plus B, the whole area, that shows consumer surplus before trade. We have written here consumer surplus before trade is equal to the area A plus B. Okay. Now let us see the producer surplus before trade. How do you measure producer surplus? To measure producer surplus, you have to look at the area above the supply curve. This is a supply curve. Above the supply curve and below this equilibrium price. So this is the area of what? Of producer surplus. This area is C. C is this area. This area is, you can say C is this area. So therefore, the area C shows producer surplus. Area C shows producer surplus. Together, total surplus. You know that total surplus is equal to consumer surplus plus producer surplus. So total surplus is this area. This total area is the total surplus. So you can say that the whole area is the total surplus, and this consists of area of consumer surplus, that is A plus B and C. So A plus B plus C is a total surplus. Now let us, so this is a before trade situation. Now let us see what happens after trade. After trade, you can see that the price has been changed. Now the price is world price. So you have to see everything by looking at the world price. So after trade, the price relevant for our economy is not the domestic price but the world price. So you have to compare everything with the world price. So see here, what's the consumer surplus after trade? To measure consumer surplus after trade, you have to see the area below the demand curve. Z below the demand curve, below this demand curve, and above this world price. So this is area. So it does mean that after trade, consumer surplus has been reduced, declined from area A plus B. Before trade we had A plus B as consumer surplus. Now this area has been reduced into A. So now this is a consumer surplus. So see, consumer surplus has been reduced, declined. And that means the consumers have lost B. This B area consumers have lost. So that's a change. So the result is that as a result of trade, as a result of export, because here we are explaining the case of an export. As a result of export, there is a decline in consumer surplus. There is a decline in consumer surplus. And that decline in consumer surplus is measured by the area B. B is a decline in consumer surplus. And we retain the consumer surplus equal to A. So, in conclusion, you can say that before trade, consumer surplus was A plus B, and after trade, consumer surplus is just A. And we have lost B area. That is why it is written minus B. So, consumer surplus has been reduced by the area B. Let us see producer surplus. So, how do you measure producer surplus? To measure producer surplus, you have to consider the area above supply curve. So this is supply curve, area above the supply curve and below the world price. So this is the area of producer surplus. So producer surplus area, earlier it was just C, area C. See, producer surplus before trade was just C. Now it has been increased to B, this area B plus C plus D. So B plus C plus D, that's the area of producer surplus. How much increase is there? Increase is by B plus D. So see, producer surplus after trade has been increased by B plus D. In short, there is an increase in producer surplus, whereas there is a decline in consumer surplus. So what's the net change? Net change is this, that is plus D. See, plus D is the net change. So total surplus has been increased by area D plus D. That's an increase in the total surplus. So here, see, the area D shows the increase in total surplus and represents the gain from trade. So there is a gain from trade, net gain from trade, and that net gain from trade is equal to the area D. Area D shows the net gain from trade. So here A plus B plus C is the total surplus before trade, but after trade the total surplus has been increased to A plus B plus C plus D. So deducting A plus B plus C from A plus B plus C plus D, we have the D. So therefore, D is the area which shows the total change in total surplus or increase in total surplus. So therefore, in short, you can say that export has led to an increase in total surplus in the economy. But this increase in total surplus is because of producer surplus. You must understand that as a result of export, consumer surplus declines, producer surplus increases, but increase in producer surplus is greater than the increase in consumer surplus. So this is the thing, increase in producer surplus outweighs or exceeds the decline in consumer surplus. Decline in consumer surplus, increase in producer. So increase in producer surplus means B plus C plus D. That's increase in producer surplus. That's or B plus D. That's increase in producer surplus. So that's greater than the loss in consumer surplus. So you can say that as a result of this, the economy experiences a net gain from trade or net gain from export in this example. So consider gain and losses from opening up trade. Clearly not everyone benefits, that we have understood, because here consumers alone loses and producers benefits. Domestic producers of textiles are better off. Producers will become better off because they can now sell textiles at a higher price, but domestic consumers of textiles are worse off because they now have to buy the textiles at a high price. Simply speaking, consumers have become worse off and producers have become better off. To measure these gain and losses, we look at the changes in consumers and producer surplus. Consumer surplus before trade is area A plus B. Producer surplus before trade is area C. And total surplus before trade is the sum of consumer surplus and producer surplus, that is area A plus B plus C. Now after trade, consumer surplus shrinks, reduces to area B. Producer surplus increases to area B plus C plus D. After trade, the total surplus is area B plus A plus B plus C plus D. Sellers benefit because producers surplus increases by the area A plus D. Buyers are worse off because consumer surplus decreases by the area A. Because the gain of sellers, this analysis is very important, because the gain of sellers exceed the losses of buyers by the area D, the total surplus in Iceland or in our country increases. So in short, as a result of trade, the total surplus in the economy increases. The total surplus in the economy increases. So this is a case of an exporting country. So here we have explained the gain and losses of an exporting country.